Well, here's a familiar, unfamiliar face for quite a while. Luciferon7 making a return to the channel. That's right, guys. We'll get to see him again. This is one of the top people on the leaderboards. More or less just been sitting there for, I don't know what reasons necessarily. And what I mean by that is he barely has played any games. Luciferon7 in the opening days put in like 40, 50 games here or there, right? Outside that, he only seems to tune in every once in a while to essentially hop up the leaderboards again by a ridiculous amount. To give you an example, he played 1 or 2 games recently and went up 88 placements. That's kind of crazy, right? And I thought this would be a really cool game to highlight, not only because he's up against Viper playing as China again, and himself playing Delhi, but this is his 69th game. That's right. That's the detail that mattered to me the most. You can see how childish I am. But yeah, that's right. He's actually sitting currently an 80% win rate. Of course, Luciferon now 9th, Viper in 8th. Should be an exciting one. 2 top 10 players. I'd be interested to see if that persistence beats out against, you know, just that random out-of-nowhere skill that Luciferon keeps showing. I'm aware there's a possibility Luciferon's on Smurfs, by the way. I just can't find his Smurfs. If anyone has the info, the DL, if this is actually a list somewhere, that would be perfect. I need maybe construct a list where I can of who's Smurfing with what account, what their names are. But I have a feeling Luciferon's got a Smurf, right? Like, to keep consistently up at the 80% win rate, I feel like this lad has a Smurf somewhere. But we'll have to see, you know, if he can win with Delhi. Delhi, of course, we've been some people discovering some interesting kind of early pressure builds, especially around utilizing the Palisade walling of the Civ. But Delhi still seen as kind of this weird faction that people are trying to, you know, crack the Enigma code of, right? They're trying to actually eke out every little advantage they can, because the name of the game right now is cavalry and rushing and archery, right? And if you think about the way Delhi plays, everyone's always talking about these elephants. They're talking about, you know, how spearman is a big part of the composition, and the use of the religion and the free researchers to get eco advantages in that mid game. So that's something I feel a lot of people are still discovering, they're still figuring out, and I do think Delhi are in some ways a very complicated faction to kind of crack. Because while we can say elephants are amazing and we'll get to them all the time, a lot of games, you know, they end by the time you're getting 2, 3, maybe 4 elephants out, and it comes down to whether that clump is good enough, because every time you lose even just one of them, it's 1,000 resources burnt in the blink of an eye. For comparison, that is a bombard cannon, right? And if you think about, you know, if you get, the problem is if you go too late there and you're talking about, oh, my opponent has 6 bombard cannons, but I have 6 war elephants, like how many of those war elephants die before you even reach a bombard cannon line? And that's where that kind of teeter-totter comes, I think, when Delhi gets put into a late game situation. Really, to me, this is a Civ that in its current construct booms in the start of the 3rd age, I want to say. Like, it's very early on in Castle Age where you can start to get some kind of strong arming. And I think if you have to fall back to Imperial Age, it can feel very awkward or out of place compared to a lot of these other civs. And China potentially being one of them. I think China is in a similar situation, by the way, where I would genuinely say they're a Castle Age boom nation, mainly because the clock tower and the ability to build a siege army quickly at that stage, that's when you want to be pushing. We're talking ahead of time, though, right? We've got to focus on Tech 2s, first of all. Barbican the Sun going down. We always see this. I've never seen a deviation in weeks at this point from Chinese players. They will go back for the other landmark in the Feudal Age, but they will not start with the palace. They want that defensive element to boom and support an economy that can get the other landmarks. But yes, definitely, I think for both these, the target is going to be a Castle Age timing for aggression off the back of elephants for Luciferon, and then for Viper, it's going to be about the siege army. I think in this matchup, if it does go that way, I would give an inherent edge to China in this matchup without seeing the names. If I blanked out Viper, like Viper, yes, he's kind of a given, right? If we blanked out the names, I would still give China an edge, just because when you go for the clock tower siege workshop, what that allows you to do is that allows you to produce those Springalds 3 times quicker, right? It takes, like, I think it's 10 seconds to push out a Springald, and they'll have 50% extra health, which means you can get to the critical mass of Springalds to snipe out elephants far quicker than your opponent can get to a stage where he'll counter you with elephants. Keeping in mind that you're making 2.5 Springalds for every elephant, you can see how it becomes a problem when you consider the range that those siege weapons have. Yes, tech up reach first by Viper. We'll see a shift out already from Luciferon. Remember, he can very early cap these due to the Mosque. Something we didn't mention is he went for the double Mosque. I've seen some players do this, some stick on one. I'm definitely a fan of the double Mosque play. The other cool thing we've seen, I think it was Viper who done it the other day, where he didn't even use wood to build a mining camp, but he literally, right at the start, sent 5 of his villagers out to collect 50 gold, which we also see from Lucifron here. You can see that's why 50's missing. So this is the opening for Delhi. I feel like this is going to be the standardization at the moment, because you don't want to have, like, there's nothing else you want to invest early on gold-wise. So really, this is why he's happy to stay in Tech 1, right? You're going to produce spears in the early game, so you don't need Tech 2 that quickly. And more importantly, you want to actually get the additional wood income so you can get access to additional mosques, also build palisade defenses if need be. And now we will finally see him start to build the Dome of Faith, because now when you start thinking about scaling your scholar count, that's when this becomes valuable, as the scholars only cost 50% to produce, which means you're saving 75 gold per unit. And yeah, this is the other part about what we're talking about with wood income, right? It's not just the palisades, it's the outpost, which is why he's getting it out here. 2 sacred sites already capped. This is a really big deal, because remember, Delhi, they get the tech that allows them to get, I believe it's a extra 100%, as well as obviously this tech which he already got, which allowed him to capture these in the before Castle Age. So already forces Viper to get present, and this is something China can be frustrated by, because usually you want to wait a little bit longer, but he is starting to spam out spears. And remember, he can actually overwhelm Lucifron as long as he keeps the eco up, off the back of 1 Rax and 1 archery range, because he has got his hands on the Imperial Official, which can supervise buildings to produce units 200% faster. Of course, Delhi does have access to something similar, where they can actually, you know, bank the scholars in these racks, but of course that can be pricey to get your hands on, costing the gold, while the Imperial Officials only cost food. So Outpost was disrupted, by the way. That's the important detail here. While Lucifron did win the initial bout, he wasn't able to complete the structure, and that was the villager sniped. So he's going to try and send out a new villager, but look at the reinforcements trickling in now. So the numbers are starting to even up, so Viper should be able to push him off, and that's why Lucifron backs off completely. Remember, these are hardened spearmen. This is where you're at a disadvantage. You had to maintain the number advantage, or you're going to start losing this, because you still haven't teched up. He'll finally get up, but now he needs a second Rax, or maybe even an archery, which is what he's choosing to transition to, so he can actually tech these up. I think he's just going to go for archers, though, at this stage, realizing the hardened spearmen are already being invested in by Viper. The problem he has is, look, Viper, he diversified, right? He built that archery range as well, so he is building the archers quicker than his opponent. He's going to be able to counter that directly. And remember, once again, if he wants, he can supervise that building instead and produce the archers much quicker than Lucifron is capable of doing. So, site will be decapped. Lucifron does still have the southern site, which means he's still getting some gold treacle. You can see that right there, 66 every 30 seconds. Decent chunk of change. And now he'll push forward ready. He's got the high ground, so you can see him coming. And only 1 measly archer here, so that's going to be a retreat out of Lucifron. Has no choice. Viper needs to be careful about retreating now. He might lose 1 or 2 of his spearmen on the way out. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, just about. Okay, that was, for anyone who understands Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 reference, that was a commando lunge range right there. I don't know how he hit that final arrow. God damn, like, that guy's got some biceps is what I'll say. So Viper holding in the center of the map, making sure that his opponent does get extra treacle. He doesn't have to go to the north, because remember, he would know, he would see it being captured. So if his opponent was taking the northern site, he'd know about this. And now he's just going to move to the southern one. And I think he's going to shift. Yeah, so he sends just 3 spearmen here, because the scout gives the info that there's no reinforcements, right? Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, he's going to back off just in time. Lucifron almost lost the scholar there. It was running towards the center by the looks of it, and the spears were wrapping around. Remember, they're pricey. Yes, they only cost half the price compared to how it was before, but it's still 75 gold at this stage, right? And the gold matters, because look at Viper. Viper is getting ready for the Castle Age timing. Lucifron is nowhere near. He's actually invested very heavily into this age. And Viper, as a result, will now back off for the moment in the center, because he needs to hoard his money, right? He needs to prep for the tech up, which he can now afford. There it is. Straight across. 14 workers on this astronomical clock tower. He's got 14 on, which means he's getting over 3 times build speed. And remember, China builds these structures even quicker. So it's actually nutty when you think about it. I think it's an extra 50% for regular structures. So ultimately, anytime you're landmark racing against China, you're going to lose, is what we're getting at here, right? It's all about finding a way of punishing them on the eco side. And I haven't seen that from Lucifron so far, which is why Viper is, in the blink of an eye, going to be in Castle Age. His opponent is nowhere near ready, and this is where the pressure will mount, because look, Springles now start being produced. So by the time we talked about this mirror situation where they both hit Castle Age, right? And then you're like, oh, I mean, the elephants cost 1,000 resources, you know, the Springles cost 400 resources. But now you got to talk about the situation where Lucifron has to now spend his resources to get up there. By the time he does, there's maybe 3, possibly 4 Springles up by the time he techs up. And then, in my opinion, the elephants just aren't viable. I think at that stage, you need a huge clump military force to push in and take out Springles. My big concern is, if anything, is you need to get horsemen, right? And you haven't even invested in stables yet. And now with the Springle being revealed, they'll try and chase it down. But they're being sniped out one by one. And with the arrival of Palace Guards, this is where it gets scary. Remember, Palace Guards, this is men-at-arms, right? This counts everything you're doing right now as Lucifron. And with the Springles being there, he's already prepped the counter to what you're going to be doing in the next few minutes, which is those aforementioned elephants. There's your example. 8 archers shoot into a Palace Guard, 2 volleys, and they don't even get in below half health. And that's going to be full retreat. So, decapped on the center site. Decapping on the side site. It looks like the spear are going to move across quick enough here. And he won't be able to keep them out. The But he snipes one of them. Oh my god, he's actually going to win this now. So remember, these are hardened spearmen. He has upgraded himself as well, but with the scout in there and distracting them, they have to focus on that target first. Is that going to give him the edge? No, it looks like it's just about going to stay in Lucifron's favor. The problem is that if he wants, he can just run 1 or 2 Palace Guard down here to get you. But instead, look what he does. He moves straight into the base. Because he understands his opponent has to build more military infrastructure to counter him. And also, he's trying to tech up right now with the House of Learning. But he has to cancel it. He has to shift a bunch of this build speed away. And the Spirals are going to snipe these down one by one. You will complete this, but you are going to lose several workers in the process. So House of Learning complete. Hone Blade should start to be prioritized as a research, but that's still a 4-minute window that Viper has where he can apply maximum pressure. Now, has he continued to build his Springles yet? Number 1 coming out. Eco-wise, he's lacking on the gold front. He actually needs to boost this up. He's up to 9 workers now. He's got 12 on the wood line, so wood is fine. He's able to actually produce archers as well alongside that if he wants to. But just continues to trickle in a Palace Guard. Understanding it counts what his opponent is doing. The Springle's going to try and retreat. I don't think you can keep chasing this with your Lucifron, right? Because you're losing villagers each attempt, and also it's just time they could have been gathering for you instead. So, but they will force the Springle to back off. I expect Viper to go back in when he has maybe 2 or 3 of these Springles. In fact, yeah, he's already got 3. So 1 went to the south to snipe out these spears. So now he's going to be able to decap this, and that means Lucifron, gold-wise, he's not gathering at all. Which is problematic, because remember, if he does want to go to these elephants we mentioned, which I really hope he doesn't, he is going to require a hell of a lot of gold to do so, and he has no control over the sacred sites. Palace Guard, just guard in the center. Because this is the thing right now, you know you have an eco advantage, right? You understand that Delhi can't match your eco at all in this current situation. You're sitting in the Song Dynasty, right? Still, I believe. Oh, wait. No. He's still... So, not Song Dynasty, the First Dynasty. So, he isn't getting the increased villager production. That's one thing to highlight here. Or is he? Am I blind? No, he didn't build into it. I'm just double-checking. But obviously, this means there are options that open up, right? Like, if you choose to go up to Song, you'll be able to get access to the Jugnu. Eventually, you'll get access to the Spirit Way, so you could just get access to them anyway. But I don't even think you can consider Jugnu. I just genuinely, for me right now, if Viper just keeps pushing out Palace Guard and Springles, I think he wins this game right now. I need to see Lucifron actually react appropriately. And I don't know if Man-at-Arms is the way. I understand why he's doing it, but he actually needs siege weapons of his own. And the problem is he doesn't have a gold line supporting him, right? This is why he can't really afford it. He can barely afford these Man-at-Arms that actually cost 20 gold each. So really problematic scenario right now, especially with 3 Springles moving in to pressure you and sniping you out one by one. Viper is being overly defensive, but for good reason, right? Like, he has the mass, he has pressure on the base. He doesn't have to be in there instantly. Like, this slow kind of death by 1,000 cuts approach is better than trying to hard commit and potentially losing your advantage. And you can just see the villagers one by one just being sniped out. I mean, Lucifron right now, 44. Oh, sorry, no. There we go, 35, and then Viper up at 44. So the lead is already just increasing because the pressure is always in Lucifron's base. And all he's doing is producing Man-at-Arms. I don't like it. I really, really don't like it. Right, he has got the Forced March, which is kind of a cool concept, right? You Force March to get right behind them, and then when you can attack, boom. And that's what he's doing. There we go, Forced March. Moves in with the archers as well. The Palace Guard are trying to come along with the crossbowmen. Springles will turn around to fire. They need to keep backing up. He's going to lose 1 or 2 of these. The archer line did go in deep. They're trying to snipe out the crossbows. And this might work. Lucifron, with the Forced March plays, the Palace Guard, there's just aren't enough of them right now. So the Springles are all going to be sniped out. 12 Man-at-Arms left. Only 5 of these Palace Guard and the crossbowmen are gone as well. Palace Guard going up against the man-at-arms. And what a play out of Luciferon. The patience shown. And Viper, way too greedy there. He kept his Palace Guard far too far away. That being said, even if they were closer, there's just so many troops here in comparison that he's going to struggle to match that, right? And it's kind of weird to me. I felt like Viper could have maybe actually had a healthier push out of Palace Guard. But his Imperial official was working on the crossbowman, right? He was just trying to directly counter out what his opponent was trying to do with the man-at-arms, which meant he didn't actually have a healthy front line to protect this very squishy and vulnerable line of siege weapons that, yes, they have a 50% extra health, but against this overwhelming quantity of units, they're always going to die like that. He starts to fix it, so he gets an army out again, kind of matching his opponent. He's still got someone guarding the south side, and if you want as Delhi, you could go into trade. I just don't think he's going to do it. I don't think it's a long enough route here. He really should play towards a gold placement, I feel like. Kind of feels like a missing opportunity still. Like, he's always playing for these sacred sites, but I would love to see just a little bit of priority in gold so you can maybe get your own siege weapons. But maybe that's not the play. Maybe just... It's the fact that it would maybe allow you to increase man-at-arms production. Because I feel like he's got so many people on wood. Wood which is being sniped, by the way. Viper just stuck into Palace Guard here. With their clunky swings, they are sniping out so many villages here. While the fight goes on at the center of the base, this all went unnoticed by Luciferon, and still is. He's going to react now. But costly nonetheless, right? Remember, this is still a single town center, so every one of these villages lost is pretty painful at this stage. As Viper now up at 49 eco, and then his opponent, Luciferon, is down at 25. Luciferon has to end this game now. He actually has to get over and apply pressure. This defense was great, but there is no denying that you are behind now, right? And defending isn't good enough. And you can already see the reaction, right? Viper, he's already built up to 5 Springles over here. Yes, he lost his main army, but the distraction was good enough to get rid of the eco. And now he can keep replacing at a rate that Luciferon can't possibly keep up with. Springles on the move. Getting the snipe out. Moves across the crossbowman. Crossbowman get a few hits in before the archers get on top of him. He's trying to micro these to split them up, right? If he splits up the Springles, the man-at-arms won't be able to burn through them quickly because they'll have to waste time running back and forth between. And he continues to back up the army towards the Barbican of the Sun. It would be difficult for Luciferon to dive this at this stage. Springles continue to try and pressure here. Repairs, not good enough. It's going to fall. Palace Guard just trying to get rid of the archers, which are trying to snipe out the villagers. Springles going to continue to back up. They will be able to burn it in the end, and he has exposed this stone outcropping line. Village is going to be surrounded. Man-at-arms trying to push deeper. The Home Blaze definitely getting their value at this stage, up to 17 damage per hit. And this single military unit production buildings from Viper is going to be punished now. He finds the wood line, he pushes in. The problem is the Barbican of the Sun is just frying through these men-at-arms quickly. The garrison is going to be super effective. And all of a sudden, this force is going to be spent for Luciferon. He tries to go for the Nest of Beasts. He's going to find it on the spawn. So Viper... Another pricey investment lost. That's 600 resources just spent like that. Just making it kind of worthwhile for Luciferon to lose this army in the meantime. Viper now finally has burst for enough of these that the army is going to be spent. Luciferon's going to run out of forces here. Meanwhile, in the center, it's only a small replacement, right? Back in base, there's a few more there as well. But we talked about this, right? The limitations now. Luciferon, he's gone from a gold limitation to a food limitation, which is getting even more concerning. Because, you know, before we could argue gold limitation, you run out, at least you can go for spearmen. But now... like, his food is always being burnt up. Viper still with a quantifiable amount that he can use to spam out further units. And, the attritional warfare here is becoming an attrition of resources more than the military forces, I'd say. And the winner is definitely Viper at this rate. And now with the keep as well. This is going to be difficult for Luciferon to push in. Luciferon could try to commit to a later time. And the problem is he just doesn't have the economy to support going towards Impage, right? So, one way or another, this is going to end here. Because Viper has kind of stalled his progress in the technological department as well to keep investing in these armies. However, the difference is that he can continue to scale, right? With his second TC behind his base. That is basically his primary food source. And in fact, if we look at income per minute, Luciferon is competing on that front, but gold is where Viper is just plowing it in, right? He's just milking it. And Keep's going to get complete. And this army might just die because of it. The Keep's going to go down. Villagers are going to get inside it. The man-at-arms one by one. The split of the forces, the crossbow to counter out the man-at-arms. Lucifron, no diversification, no composition to his army. It's simply man-at-arms, swords and shields being clashed with by these blades of the pass guard and the crossbowman. And that is good enough. Viper takes it. I kind of felt like it was going this way for a long time. Lucifron, some nice attempts to try and bounce back into this, but I really felt like his mistake was not transitioning, right? He wasn't changing his unit type at all. He simply went man-at-arms and stuck there. I think maybe he could have went for a battering ram or two at least to up the pressure. And I think that's the difference. When he started to dive into the base past the Barbican of the Sun, it was just a spent army to try and force a harassment on the eco. But the damage was already done several minutes before, back and forth, constantly from Viper, just sniping out a villager here, there, and everywhere. And that really was the difference. I think if you wanted to be in this situation where you were just defending, if you're playing Delhi in that situation, your play has to be a second TC. Otherwise, all you're essentially doing is losing a battle much slower than you normally would.